what does it take for a feature to graduate and get the product treatment?
If you are going to rise something to the value of a standalone product, it does need to be able to compete with the competition, even without the broader platform.
When you think about integrating AI into your suite of products, how do you go about monetization?
You've got to make sure that it's not just a whiz-bang magic wand, but that it delivers real value where a customer can make a business case to pay extra for it.
When I started product school, most of the students that came wanted to become product managers, but have technical backgrounds. And now I see the opposite. I see a lot of people with business backgrounds that are thinking business first.
The 3 heads of product at Pendo, all of them have worked in roles outside of just product.
When you are at the board, what is the role of a product executive?
Return on investment. How much do we spend? Why are we doing it? What's the strategy? And then what are we getting for it?
How do you go about measuring success and leveraging scorecards for your own team?
One of the things I measure is...
Hey everyone, this is Carlos, CEO at Product School. Today I'm here with Trisha Price, who's the Chief Product Officer at Pendo. Trisha is a product executive who's been pretty big supportive of our product community. She was a speaker at our ProductCon San Francisco conference last year, right around the times where OpenAI launched ChatGPT and changed all the product strategies for product leaders. So Trisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today, Carlos. It's great to see you again.
Well, let's start with how AI, the launch of ChatGPT, changed that product strategy that you were creating for Pendo.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Pendo had started on an AI strategy well before that time, like probably many of you have. And when we started on that, we were building our own machine learning models. We have a lot of data in Pendo, and we were trying to figure out how can we take that data and provide proactive recommendations to our customers. And that was great. It was moving along. And then OpenAI hit. And, we looked at ourselves and we said, we need to go faster and we need to be more strategic. And this really democratizes who can build AI features at Pendo, right? This is not just our machine learning team anymore. This is almost any team can now, and very quickly, it needs to be utilizing AI. But as you and I both know, you have to make sure you're still building valuable features, right? I think about AI as sort of inside out and outside in thinking. Inside out thinking meaning what can you do with AI? What problems can you solve? And outside in thinking, making sure you're still keeping your roots of product management and delivering valuable features that your customer care about, not just sizzle in a demo. And so we went off site, some of our top leaders, and we revisited what are the hardest problems that our customers need solved for them where AI could play? Like what takes too long? What's too hard? And we came up with this sort of 3-bucket approach to utilizing AI. And one of them was around guide creation in Pendo, being able to utilize knowledge bases and documentation you've already created and make that really fast. And then the second is continuing around analytics and how do we use machine learning models to help put recommendations and insights in front of you. And then the third piece of the puzzle is around there's so much qualitative feedback out there. How do you summarize that? Things like NPS insights, enhancement requests, support tickets, and bring all that together to really give a heat map for product managers to know where to focus in terms of improvements to their product. So we came up with these 3 buckets, and then we came back to Pendo and rolled those out, and we did a hackathon immediately, and we really let our teams just go wild for a week. And Carlos, you'd be shocked how quickly our teams were able to bring that vision to life. And so since then, it's just been a steady drumbeat of launching these new features, making sure we're paying attention to our customers and the things they love about them and the things they don't love about them, and continuing to iterate. And then we recently launched our new product, Listen, which is all AI based.
So I noticed that for the last year, more or less, there's been a constant release of new AI-powered features and improvements for the product. And so I always wonder, how did you go about changing that overall product strategy. Like obviously this opportunity, you go offsite with your leaders, you get excited about the future, but then when you go back into the office, like how do you balance that with other priorities that, are also important?
I mean, it's the age-old problem for product leaders and product managers, right? There's the tension between invention and innovation and delighting your customers and listening to their feedback and improvements. And those are always a struggle. I don't really see AI as being dramatically different than that constant struggle of always thinking about new ideas and balancing those with the quality of life. The interesting thing about AI is it can do both, right? Like having the steady drumbeat of AI is important, but you can use AI to solve some of those quality of life sort of nitpicky, annoying things. Let me give you a real example, Carlos. Localizing a guide in Pendo, right? You go through all this work, you create the guide in Pendo. It's difficult to go out and localize that, translate that into multiple languages. And we had a process for that and features for that, but it was something that customers constantly said to me, Trisha, it's too time consuming. AI was a great example. Not only are we able to take advantage of market momentum and be an AI player, we were able to apply it to that problem that our customers have been asking us to solve around localization and use AI to really streamline that process and take all of the work out of it for customers. So I think you can do both.
You can do both, clearly. And it's just very brave that a company at that scale is able to go really that hard into AI, because it's also a risk, right? Like everybody's getting excited, but I remember those days where like it was also not so clear what are some of the specific use cases.
Yeah.
And then so when you think about integrating AI into your suite of products, is this a feature? Like we are now going to have a magic wand there that says click here and AI is going to fix all your problems, or is this more of an integration into the existing features just to make them more efficient? Yeah. And then when you figure that out, then how do you go about monetization? Is this a freebie that you throw into the existing pricing tiers, or do you see an angle where you can start charging extra for some of these AI capabilities?
We're doing both, Carlos. We believe there are some places where AI is solving a quality of life problem for our customers that we should allow them to use it at the same price point. We think that that's the right thing to do. We think it differentiates us from the competition and serves our customer base the right way. And then there are other times where we really believe we've used AI in an innovative way and have delivered enough value to the customer that monetization makes sense. And to me, when you're making that clear decision about packaging and a pro version or monetization, you've got to make sure that it's not just a whiz-bang magic wand, but that it delivers real value where a customer can make a business case to pay extra for it. And that's how we've been thinking about it. For example, Listen is a brand new product. We're not asking you to pay more for the AI features within Listen. The whole product was built on AI. Now you can turn it off if it's something your company is not ready for or you don't have permission to use, because we understand there's legal hoops you have to go through. But all of Listen was built with AI in mind, because as product managers, none of us want to go through the manual process of triaging. We want to understand where we should focus and our time. And that's the differentiator of that product. And we built it that way from the beginning. So that's not a place where we're looking to monetize other than the whole product, right? But there are other places where, same thing for our analytics, insights, and recommendations. Those machine learning models that we built. We're not looking to charge. Those are your analytics, and we're just trying to make it easier for you to understand them and know what to focus on. So we don't feel like charging is right there. But then there are other places where we do feel a pro version or edition makes sense.
Yeah, and I also think it's still relatively early. And the approach that I've seen for most companies that are piloting AI is to at least let the users play with it, get value up front, and then see what are other options to capture some of that value. So I think that also reduces the stakes to not have to worry not only about shipping something that is good, but also making money off it right away.
Yeah, we did a lot of that, Carlos, back in when we originally launched Pendo AI. We left things in beta for quite a while, and they were open betas that anybody could participate in, but to make sure that we were learning, paying attention, and not trying to monetize too quickly. I totally agree with you on that approach.
So you mentioned you recently released this new product. You call it Listen, right? So it's mostly the session replays.
Actually, Session Replay is something that we launched in October, and Listen is something we just launched last week. And so we have both two new products.
Tell me more about it.
Which one do you want to talk about? You want to talk Session Replay first, and then we'll talk Listen?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Session Replay we launched at Pandemonium in October. It was fun. It was bold. We launched it while I was on stage to our entire user base. And Session Replay, we believe, is a great product that is an add-on to a platform like Pendo, because we believe Session Replay is valuable for customers when you combine it with analytics, guides, qualitative feedback all together. And when we think about Session Replay, we think about, oh, you're looking at analytics, or we tell you an insight and you go, okay, I see the data tells me this, but I want to know what they were doing. Why? I just need that extra level of understanding of where my customers are happy or getting stuck. And so being able to watch replays is like doing user research at scale, and having that embedded into the platform. We have seen our customers had been asking for it for a while. That was something that we really responded to the market on. And so far, we're getting great feedback about that as a integrated set of features within Pendo.
I think Pendo has a unique positioning in the market as a platform, as you mentioned. It's basically a set of products. So I'm always wondering, like, what does it take for a feature to graduate and get the product treatment?
Yeah. I think like NPS is a good example, right? NPS is kind of a feature within Pendo. What would it take to be truly a standalone product, right? And I think, all of our products are more valuable together. We very much in our designs think about the intersections of these products. We think about what are the magical moments, the intersections that only Pendo can provide because we have these multiple products in one place. And so we're always thinking about the integrated suite, not necessarily just the standalone value of the product. But if you are going to rise something to the value of a standalone product, it does need to be able to compete with the competition, even without the broader platform. It's always more special with the other features, but it needs to be able to stand alone and compete on its own. For example, our guides, right? That's a product. It's not just a feature. And we feel strongly our guides can compete against anyone in the industry. Same for analytics, same for Session Replay. They're more powerful together, but if they're their own product and not a feature, they have to be able to compete.
So given that there are also specialized players in the market that only do one of the products that you build, right? Say analytics, for example. How do you go about allowing users to either get the full suite of products or integrate with others so you can still be part of their stack?
Yeah. We really focus with our customer base on the value of the broad platform and why these intersections, they're going to get more value and a better business case if they do it all with Pendo. There's training your users on one platform. You mentioned integrations, integrating to your CRM. Do you want to integrate 3 different products to the CRM, or do you want to do it once? And so we do focus on that, but we understand that's not how everybody's going to operate. And if you want to come and use Pendo and then be able to still use other tools, we're perfectly okay with that too. Our APIs are very open, and we understand it's your data and it's your ecosystem that you're building. But we certainly want to be able to earn everybody's business and them see the value of the integrated product.
And then in terms of next step, like I've seen a lot of platforms outside product, let's say Salesforce. As an example, right? They eventually become an ecosystem. They allow third-party tools to build on top of it. Like, how do you think about that? I have never seen anything like that in the product stack yet.
We are going to do that, Carlos. We're already seeing some of that today. It's interesting. There's some new up-and-coming smaller AI players that have already started to build a business on top of Pendo data. We have a feature called Data Sync that allows you to export data at scale to cloud storage to use for data science. And we also have several APIs, and we've seen a couple of companies coming about already doing that. We've had some customer success platforms come to us and say, hey, we've integrated to your APIs. But we need, and you can just see that by coming to our integrations page on our website and see the breadth of integrations. But I think to your point, that's different than having developer environments where they can easily spin up and then, deploy into your ecosystem, even having referral and reseller agreements. And I think that an ecosystem is certainly something that we will go harder at over the next couple of years. But we welcome, and for any of you listening, I'd love for you to send me an email if you're thinking about an idea and you want a deeper integration and partnership with Pendo. That is certainly something that we're working on.
And I can't wait to see that happening for the entire industry. Like just 10 years ago, there was nothing. Like product teams were still piggybacking on tools created for marketers, designers, and engineers. Now we have this full suite of products for so many different use cases. I'm just thinking about the fact that there are platforms and eventually ecosystems that allow even more things to build on top. It's really cool. And it just takes some time. And I think part of it is the evolution of what we're seeing in the market with the product function. It's finally strategic, right? Like people like you are at the table. They are C-level executives working directly with the CEO with access to the board. So can you tell me more about what you've seen and how product teams are now being more involved in go-to-market?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think about this in two buckets, SaaS and tech companies, and then everybody else, right? And I think to your point in SaaS and tech companies, the chief product officer truly has a seat at the table now. And you're right. I don't spend a ton of time thinking about features. I mean, I do. With Todd and I did a brainstorm for 2 hours this morning on one with our team, and that's fun. But the real thing is I'm accountable to company outcomes. I'm accountable to reducing churn. I'm accountable to improving, growth rates and ARR. I'm accountable to people using my products as a leading indicator to both of those other pieces. And so when I think about our product strategy, I don't just think about this as a feature somebody would love. I think about, is this a feature somebody would need and they would pay for? And do we build it in a way that none of our competition can do the same thing that we're doing to really break away and differentiate us? And so you're right. I do think both at the board level, which you and I have talked before about board level, I bet we will today again, you're seeing people with deep product expertise and background sitting on boards, not just at the C-suite. So I think that sort of revolution or evolution has happened in tech and in SaaS. And it's starting in its infancy to happen in what you and I would consider more traditional businesses. You're starting to see heads of product, even CPO titles at banks, at educational companies, because digital is everything for them too. So it is fun to watch. And then to your point, it puts even more pressure and need on people like me and Pendo to make sure that we are meeting the needs of this growing group of people and that we provide an ecosystem so newer startups and even other companies that haven't served product can come in and integrate into this world.
Yeah, I think it starts with what you said at the beginning, which is being accountable for company outcomes, including revenue, ARR, reducing churn, and things that truly make money for the company. Otherwise, we just become a kind of a support function to make customers happy, which is important, but not the whole point.
That is a bullet point of your job and a bullet point of a scorecard that you should be paying attention to. But your broader remit needs to be much more strategic than that.
This episode is brought to you by Eppo, the next generation A/B testing and feature management platform built for modern growth teams by alums from Airbnb and Stitch Fix. With Eppo, you can increase experimentation velocity while unlocking rigorous deep analysis. From setup to troubleshooting to analysis, Eppo makes experimentation easy. An accessible UI makes it easy to dig into performance. And out-of-the-box reporting makes it easy for you to avoid annoying prolonged analytics cycles. Check out why companies like Twitch, Miro, and DraftKings rely on Eppo. Visit geteppo.com/product school and 10x your experiment velocity. That's geteppo.com/product school. So can you tell us more about how you go about structuring your team to make sure that you are better integrated with with go-to-market, including like what is the specific skill set that you are looking for in the people that work with you?
Yeah, so Carlos, the three heads of product at Pendo that work on my team are very seasoned leaders, and all of them have worked in roles outside of just product. Some of them have been a CEO, some of them have been in business development or in sales, some of them have been in growth roles, which straddle into marketing. Some of them have owned product marketing before. So that is, important to me that they understand the outcomes and the results we're trying to drive. And I think that drives a very different culture at Pendo. We have a special piece being being product leadership at Pendo, that our buyers, our customers are us. And so we need to spend a lot of time. I mean, everyone should in a product role be spending a lot of times with customer. It's something you should measure and should be part of your success criteria for your team. But as product leaders that sell to product, the expectation is even greater on us to spend time with people like you and get to go and listen at your conference, which I'm looking forward to next week. And it just making sure that we're staying on top of what's happening in this changing industry. And that is a big part of my leadership team. The other part of my leadership team, Carlos, is product marketing reports into product at Pendo. And I think that really helps us also bring that go-to-market lens early in our innovation cycle. Right? We're not going out and building a product for 6 months or a year and then saying, hey, product marketing, what's the messaging for this? Product marketing leadership's at the table at our product offsites and working with us right from the start, thinking about how do we package it? How do we monetize it? What makes sense? And so having that voice in the room every single week in our product leadership discussions really helps that go-to-market focus.
I agree. I've seen more and more product teams that are starting to oversee product marketing, especially when they have strong product leaders who's thinking go-to-market and how to position and price and sell something beyond just, well, I'm going to build it and then someone else is going to market for me.
That's right. Because then you find out at the end, once you start to package it or you look at the competition and you think about messaging, oops, I forgot about this feature. It's too late at that point.
Yeah, and I remember even when I started product school, like most of the students that came wanted to become product managers would have technical backgrounds. Even myself, I come from an engineering background.
Me too.
We had to learn business, right? But exactly. And now I see the opposite. I see a lot of people with business backgrounds, pre-business school, former consultants, marketers, salespeople, as you mentioned, part of your product leadership team that are thinking business first and obviously have to pick up the tech part.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to have a mix of both, right? A mix of people who have put hands on keyboard and touched code like you and I have in their careers. Many of those people, by the time they get to our sort of experience level, have had a chance to dabble in other parts of the organization and become a well-rounded business leader. And that's great. And I think it's also great, to your point, for people who come from a business school background, et cetera. And the thing about technology today is anybody can tinker and get their hands dirty with technology and understand it and play with it. And so if you're coming from a business background, I have the same expectation that you're going to get in there and ask hard questions and learn and understand technology than if you're coming from a technology background, my expectation that you think and ask hard questions about the outcomes you're going to drive.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, how do you go about measuring success and leveraging scorecards for your own team?
Yeah, we do have we have a product scorecard. We also use OKR framework at Pendo. And so the OKRs, we have company level OKRs, and then those cascade to each department, including product, to make sure that the outcomes that we're driving in product align from an OKR perspective to the overall company. But I'll just give you some examples of things that I measure in our scorecard and measure for success. One is competitive win rate. I think is a very important metric. If you are early stage, and it does differ, Carlos, for me, if it's a mature part of the product versus a brand new module or product that we're launching. If it's a new product or feature set, and it's getting ready to go into beta, one of the things I measure is signing up beta lists, interests. I want those beta lists to be oversubscribed and have wait lists, because if we're building something and not a lot of people are interested in it from a beta, we're probably not building the right thing. So that's another important one. Usage of our products, especially if you're going for a bundling approach or you're doing like some sort of good, better, best or bundle approach. If people are buying a bundle of your products and they're not using it, you have major risk at renewal time of downsell or churn to a lower package. And so looking at usage, both from the ARR churn perspective, as well as are we getting a return on investment for these features we're building? Are people using them? Why aren't they using them? So that's another piece that we measure. Another one I look at is time to value for your product. So, someone buys your product, how long does it take them till they're really using it, till they run a port, till they deploy a guide? How long till 5 guides? How long till 10 guides? How long till they're running reports and running their business from your dashboards? So those kinds of metrics are also important to me on our scorecard.
And as I hear you talk about that, I was thinking about how important this is for product marketing teams to go beyond the launch metric. Okay, we shipped the thing. Great, congratulations. And now what?
Yeah, so for product marketing, typically the way we're measuring success as you think about the launch, and I often call our launches rolling thunder. And you kind of mentioned this with AI. You heard a big story and then you keep seeing things come from us. That's sort of that rolling thunder approach. But when I think about success for product marketing, when we're launching the beta lists in the beginning, and then the first couple of quarters after launch, it's pipeline, right? And then it starts to be ARR, and then it starts to be win rate.
You mentioned a couple of magic words to me: pipeline, ARR, and I would love to learn more about how you go about qualifying some of those users through some of those aha moments that you described, and identifying who they really are, to then loop in sales and see and better integrate the usage and the adoption that you are seeing with the actual revenue.
Yeah, so we do that a couple of ways. One way we do it is using the Pendo platform. So we look at certain analytics and usage criteria. We also look at metadata that we collect through Pendo Analytics, and we say who might be ripe to buy this new product. And then we often will use a guide to hand raise and say, hey, are you interested in learning more? If so, contact our sales team, or turn this feature on and do a trial of it and play with it and let us know what you think. So that's one example of how we do it. We also do it with intersections of our product, not just with guides, but when we design the product, if we're designing session replay or we're designing, we think about, okay, when users are doing this in analytics, they're looking at a path or a funnel. This might be a place they want to look at session replay, but they haven't bought it yet. And so we say, okay, how about right there, you do an aha moment and say, hey, would you like to watch a session of what's happening right here? And then maybe you trial it for them and let them try it and see it and give you feedback if it was valuable or not. So we think about it both ways, right? And then there's actually a third way, which is using Pendo data, but exporting it using our data sync function, take all the data out of Pendo, all the usage data, and then have our data science team run models and look at and say, hey, people who are using these features, they're the ones you should focus on. People who aren't, you should worry about them. And they write these models, that then they give to the sales team to help think about good leads as well as risk.
So here's my hot take on this. I always hated the concept of the marketing qualified lead. And now we have people talking about sales qualified lead, product qualified lead. I really don't care how they want to call it.
Do you want to buy my product or not?
Exactly. So the classic trap in this type of PLG models or freemium models is that a lot of the people don't really have decision-making power, right? So they might be super engaged with the product, they love it, but ultimately you don't really want to send a sales rep to talk to them because they can't do much about it. So how can you solve for that and leverage some of these, power users to then get you in touch, or champions with the right decision maker?
Yeah, I think notice when I said to you, our approaches, none of them said, put your credit card in and buy this feature. None of them. When I said the 3 ways that we use our data to engage our customers and raise up interest for our new products. That's because exactly what you were talking about. Very few companies, the user who's running a path or a funnel has the ability to put a credit card in and buy it. Now, maybe at a 5 and 10, very small company, but most of them, they don't. But they can be your champion. And if they have interest and they saw value and you said, hey, do you want to talk to our team? Now you've opened up the chance for our sales team to have a value-based conversation and get the right people at the table, but to a company that's actually interested in the feature, not just cold calling everybody and hoping that you're getting to somebody who has value. So to me, I think it meets in the middle of the product experiences, driving interest, showing customers the value of the new module, and then using your great sales team to have value-based conversations with the right levels.
So when you are at the board reporting for product, like what is the role of a product executive there?
So typically when it's top of mind, I have a board meeting next week and I'm fresh off of the board meeting of the board I'm on from last week. And so thinking about like just next week, one, I'll give them an update on our AI strategy. Every board right now wants to talk about AI strategy and how we're thinking about it. And Carlos, I will do exactly what we just talked about. I'll talk about our monetization strategy. I'll talk about our competition and what they're doing and why we're differentiating from them. But most of my time comes down to, and you know this because I spoke about this at ProductCon last year at your conference, and that is return on investment. So how much are we spending in R&D dollars and what is the outcome it's driving? And the outcome is going to be ARR, right? Whether that's growth or churn. And it's going to be also usage, right? So everything comes down to that. Now, when I'm thinking about it in terms of a new product that we just launched, like Listen, I might talk about here's how much pipeline we've already gotten. This is how many customers have already bought it. This is how often they're using it. But that's always the flavor that it comes down to is talking to the board about the return on investment. Usually most of your board are your investors. How are you using their money to give them a return, right? And that comes down to how much do we spend? Why are we doing it? What's the strategy? And then what are we getting for it?
That's why you are at the board. I love it. Trisha, and I hope this serves as inspiration for a lot of product leaders who are out there listening, thinking, okay, eventually I want to be at the board. I want to be a C-level executive. Well, this is the money talk. Like this is kind of like how you have to switch some of the context to speak the language of an investor who might not be a user of your product.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think it is important to translate. It's important for all of us when we're coming to the board to think about what are their goals, why did they invest in our company, and what is our job as an executive, as a steward of their investment to make sure that the company is successful. And so that's how I think about approaching the board level discussions. And I love that you, Carlos, and Product School are having these conversations to sort of raise the level up around, like, you didn't ask me about RAG and what are we doing for an AI feature. I'm sure we could talk about those things. Well, there's probably people who are much better at it than me. But what we're spending time talking about is how to be an executive and how to drive success as a product community. And I love that you and Product School are doing that.
Well, thank you. Let's talk about the dark side of product. What is one thing that comes with the territory that you have to do and maybe not too many people know about it?
I think, a hard thing is commits. When you become an enterprise product company, there's going to be times where a large customer expects something from you that you don't do, and you have to make a commit, which takes time away from your strategic roadmap and the things you want to do. And you cannot miss on those things. You cannot miss on commits, or you lose the trust of your enterprise customers. So, that's one. And then I think the other is when you make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes as product and engineering teams. That could be a performance problem. It could be a bug. It could be you released something and didn't tell somebody about it and it impacted their business. And so as product leaders and engineering leaders, we have to stand up and be accountable in those moments and take it and apologize to our customers and put safeguards in place to prevent them from happening in the future. But I think it's important to acknowledge those things face to face with a customer and understand the impact and work to improve when you do those things.
And for you personally, if I were to look at your calendar and see like how you spend your time and how much time you spend at work, how can you give me a sneak peek?
Well, so we should talk about the calendar and how much I show up at work. And then when I'm sitting at the couch pretending to watch a show or waking up in the morning and doing my Wordle, I think that like many executives, is very hard for me to turn off work. I love what I do. I am personally invested in Pendo's success. My kids have 1,000 Pendo t-shirts. And so it's a part of our family. It's a part of who I am. And so I think about work all the time. Some of my best ideas might come on the Peloton or running. But, specifically, how do I spend most of my working day? I spend at least 30% of my time, if not 40, talking to customers, listening, understanding what is their strategic goals and roadmaps and how is Pendo helping them and what should I do to make it easier and help them more. So that's a huge part of my time. A little bit of my time is thinking about product strategy. I got to do a 2-hour brainstorm this morning with the team, thinking about the future of one of our products and what it will look like in 2 years. So that's some portion of my team time, 10% maybe. I mean, you can't focus on strategy all the time. And then there's a portion which is just one-on-ones. And then there's a portion that's execution. I meet with all of our different products and squads monthly to understand what was the success of what we shipped last month and what are we going to ship this month. We look at usage metrics. We look at sus scores. We look at our goals and our scorecard, and then we specifically look at the features and map those against that success criteria. So that's pretty much most of my day.
When you mentioned 30 to 40% time is spent on customers, it's very impressive. Like, I don't think I've heard another product executive spending that much time. So how do you actually structure that time? And what is that? Is this you being looped into a sales conversation? Is it you proactively spending time with a user? Like, how do you actually implement customer time?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have the most amazing assistant and partner, Joey, who I'm sure you've met, Carlos, and he sort of makes all of the magic happen. And that's a huge part of it, right? Being briefed, getting all the details together about the customer, how long they have been with us, what do they use, what do we already know? Because if you're going to spend time with customers, you cannot waste 20 minutes of a 30-minute meeting asking stuff that you could have read and prepared for before you go. So that's a big part of it. But how I make it work, sometimes I personally, often, daily, I personally write emails to the executive at our customers and ask for their time and ask so I can listen and better understand. Sometimes it's in a prospect meeting. Our sales team will come and ask me, hey, will you do a roadmap conversation? This is a strategic partner. Or, hey, we're doing a strategic QBR, EBR with a customer. Can you join? I do some of those as well, but a lot of it is me proactively reaching out and just asking for time.
I love that. And I think there is no replacement for that type of one-on-one. I do that a lot too, like sending the message myself, especially on LinkedIn, or text, because I think there is something about, hey, it's me.
Yeah. I mean, we did that, right? You and I did that, right? You personally reached out to me the year ago when I came to San Francisco with you. And it's like, It's very different when you personally say, hey, Trisha, I'd love to see how you're going to participate at our conference versus just getting like the stock email that you get from a marketing team. And those relationships that we all build are how we're all successful together.
Well, and I tell you one more. I met Todd, CEO at Pendo, many years ago when the company was tiny. And he was running a booth at a conference and I was running another booth at the other conference, and we were looking at each other like, hey, here is what I'm building. Oh, cool. And then a few years later, look at where you guys are. And that has been the case for other companies, but I think there is no replacement for those type of interactions where there's true care, right? It's not just, hey, I'm here to sell you something. Sure, there's space for that, but I think, as you mentioned, the discovery piece, the truly understanding what the business is trying to accomplish is critical, even if there is no direct return on investment.
Yeah. Well, I think that, to your point about bringing up Todd in the booth, it does start at the top, the attitude of focusing on customers. At Pendo, one of our core values is maniacal focus on the customer. And I can tell you, Todd is, and you can guess this, the same as me. He spends a ton of his time with customers. As a matter of fact, he's mad if he's not spending time with customers and executives across the product world. So I think that that's a cultural thing about our company, and it's a big part of Todd's vision from the beginning and a part of Pendo's success.
Trisha, last question. What's next? Give me a sneak peek into the future, please.
Yeah. So I hope you're coming to Pandemonium in October, Carlos, because that's where the next big launch will be. We're doing a few things this summer, you'll see, but the next big exciting one will be in October. And in October, we'll be launching a new product that sort of broadens the way we think about customer communication from in-app guides and our always-on resource center to really helping you utilizing AI to get to the right audience. So sort of combining our analytics and having smart segments and really orchestrating the customer journey between in-app and out-of-app communication to really help product leaders get that adoption, drive the retention and growth and conversion that they're looking for. So it'll be an interesting new update on the way you think about customer communication, and you'll see a much broader set of features supporting product leaders' need to personalize, right? We all need to personalize our applications because in the B2C world, it's happening all the time, right? When I log into Netflix, I see something different than you do, and people expect that in their work applications as well. And so you'll see a lot of interesting features relating to personalization.
Looking forward to it, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Carlos.